Assalamualaikum and welcome to another episode of AI Geonavigators podcast series. I'm your host Mansoor Adi, and today we are going to talk about something which is very close to my heart, that is sustainability. So, today we are going to talk about sustainability not as a buzzword but a lived reality. From rural communities to global conferences, from climate and anxiety to climate actions. So, today we are going to talk about the real actions. And to talk about the sustainability and climate action, we got a very well known person, Mr. Shesha Khan. So, Mr. Shesha Khan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mansoor.
Before talking about the sustainability and climate action, we will first know about the personal journey of Mr. Shesha Khan.
So, yes, my journey is quite diverse. It started when I was working in the oil and gas industry, actually. Sitting there, I realized that yes, the problem is the fossil fuel industry and the emissions and everything that we know about climate change or global warming is rooted in the fossil fuel industry. And I was working there, sitting there, I realized that I need to switch. And the switch came in a year thanks to the UNDP Movers program. That's where I started my volunteering journey. And in the course of this advocacy, in a year or two, I was equipped enough to launch my own organization, which is Skillistan. And through this journey of organizing Elkois in Pakistan, and so the journey started to grow, I would say, during COVID, thanks to also the Movers program, but also thanks to the fossil fuel industry, because if they were not exploiting and harming our environment, we wouldn't be talking against them. So thanks to them as well.
बड़ी आपकी एक इंटरेस्टिंग जर्नी रही है कि आप पहले ऑयल एंड गैस सेक्टर में काम कर रहे थे एंड देन आपने स्विच किया टुवर्ड्स क्लाइमेट एक्शन क्लाइमेट हीरो। तो फिर मैं आपको क्या कहूँ, क्लाइमेट हीरो या फिर आपको मैं कहूँ वॉलेंटियर ऑफ क्लाइमेट एक्शन, या फिर मैं आपको फाउंडर एंड सीईओ ऑफ स्किलिस्तान, क्या पसंद करेंगे आप, कौन सा?
I would so the volunteer title I carry it with myself. I proudly own it. Despite being the CEO of Skiristan, I would still want to be called a volunteer work, because even in Skiristan, we are currently working on a volunteer model. So the majority of our employees are still volunteers. Although as a volunteer, I also realize that we need to incentivize volunteerism, but still I would love to be called a volunteer.
अब हम ज़रा बात करते हैं कि आप ट्रैवल करते हैं अराउंड द ग्लोब। आप जो है ना कॉप के इवेंट्स पे जाते हैं, आप मूवर्स की वर्कशॉप्स कराते हैं। तो आपको क्या लगता है कि ये कितने एक फ़ायदेमंद साबित होती है किसी भी इंसान के लिए कि वो क्लाइमेट चेंज के बारे में जाने, उसको एसडीजीज़ के बारे में इल्म हो?
I think foreign exposure is very important. So there is one target in SDGs that we teach, 4.7. It talks about education for sustainable development as well as being a global citizen. So how do we become global citizens? Yes, it's all about mindset, but until and unless you don't have a physical exposure of going and discovering the world and learning about its diversity, I don't think one can easily acquire the global citizenship mindset without actually going. So I recommend all the listeners, all the youth who are just starting their journey, that always cash on these opportunities of traveling abroad. They're going to give you networks that you cannot make online. They're going to give you exposure that you cannot even imagine in Pakistan. So yes, going to COPs, whether it's the climate COP or the biodiversity COP or the land COP, so there's a lot of diversity, and I hope to equip our youth with knowing what all these COPs are, how to go towards them, and participate in this. But then there are not just a climate side, there are many more events, right? So one event that I'm going to is in China. It's the World Youth Development Forum. So many more such opportunities come up, and we should definitely be applying and awaiting these opportunities.
Okay, so nowadays we hear a lot about sustainability. So, what's the common myth about the sustainability in your point of view?
Well, the common myth is there are a lot of myths basically, and I would say many people create myths with a lack of knowledge. So even without reading the SDGs or knowing about sustainability, they would have an opinion, and maybe the one against sustainability. There are many reasons for it, but yes, there are myths. For example, one of the biggest myth is about the SDGs that this is some kind of hidden agenda, conspiracy theories, and so on. And maybe other myths, for example, about SDG 5, gender equality, there are a lot of myths. Then I would say some myths are that, okay, the SDGs are all about the climate. Whereas it's not just the climate, it's the general sustainability, all dimensions of sustainability. So there are a lot of myths that could only be busted with knowledge. And what we are doing is spreading knowledge about the SDGs so that all these myths could be banished.
जब हम सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात करते हैं एसडीजीज को हम कैसे ही भूल सकते हैं तो आपको क्या लगता है कि कौन से ऐसे बिगेस्ट बैरियर्स हैं implementing the SDGs here in Pakistan?
Nice question. Because I really want in this life, or maybe till 2030, till the SDGs timeline, because I know another set of goals is also going to come, even if we don't achieve the SDGs. But it's my desire that Pakistan should improve on the SDG ranking. Just last week, we received a report of the Sustainable Development Report 2025, and it said that we are now ranking 140th out of 166 countries, Pakistan. Last year, we were 138, and in 120s the previous year. So it's a downward fall. Now, what is it? The reason for it, if you ask me, the first one would be knowing about the SDGs. How many people in Pakistan even know about the SDGs? We did a small survey and the result was less than 1%. So, with a less than 1% know how of SDGs, how do we think it's going to be implemented on the mass scale? Because the SDGs are not just for the government to implement. Until unless we as individuals, local communities don't take our part in the SDGs, the government cannot do it alone. Now, coming to the government has their own priorities. For example, Udan, Pakistan has a policy came in. It's aligned with the SDGs, but whether the government is spending the same amount of resources on branding and building awareness about the SDGs or not. No, because they are promoting their own set of goals, which is Udan. So I would say we need urgent government ownership. We need to listen to our youth if we want to implement the SDGs. We need more and more awareness sessions, such as the workshops we do here and there about the SDGs. And even greater, we need real capacity building for the SDGs. Very rarely do I find people who have read just once all the 169 targets and 247 indicators, even the ones who are working in big organization. So we need capacity building on the organizational level as well, whether government, whether private. And one more thing, the private sector. So the private sector is contributing to the SDGs, but they usually don't know this. They don't have the right words to express their contribution to the SDGs. So we need to work on this as well. And I'm still an optimist for the SDGs. 2030 might seem impossible for many people, but I would just say this, And usually my students ask me this, that, okay, sir, if we don't achieve the SDGs, then what? And I tell them, if you don't achieve the SDGs, it's okay, but we should try, keep trying. And maybe if we don't get to the 100 result, we can get to 70 to 80. And this framework is definitely going to be extended. Maybe we get an SDG plus by 2030 or something else, but the progress remains the same. Even this was for the MTGs. Many people said we can't achieve this and by 2050. But those countries who are doing good, they are on a better state. So it's basically a race for development. The rest of the world is following the SDGs, and if Pakistan is not following, we'll be left behind. That's all.
यस, बहुत अच्छी तरीके से आपने सम अप किया। और वो सवाल जो बार बार मेरे जहन में आ रहे थे कि मैं जब भी किसी से एसडीजीज़ के बारे में सवाल पूछूं और वो मुझे कोई डिप्लोमेटिक आंसर ना दे, और जो रियल इश्यूज आ रहे हैं उनको इम्प्लीमेंट करने में उस पर बात करे, तो आपने बड़ा ब्रेवली उस पर बात की। बहुत अच्छा लगा। अच्छा, अब मूव ऑन करते हैं हम अपने नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन की तरफ। जब हम सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात करते हैं तो माइंड में एक चीज़ आती है कि इट्स ऑल अबाउट एनवायरनमेंट, बट वी नो सस्टेनेबिलिटी इज़ बियॉन्ड एनवायरनमेंट। तो आप पर्सनली सस्टेनेबिलिटी को कैसे डिफाइन करते हैं?
Thank you. This is another nice question. And one of the myths about sustainability or misconceptions about sustainability is that people think sustainability is all about the environment. But if we analyze the SDGs, there are mainly 5 dimensions of sustainable development: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnerships. Now, in order to say sustainable development, you have to keep all of these sides equally important. It's not just the environment, because without good economics, what are you going to spend on the environment? Without healthy people, educated people, the people centric goals, how are you going to grow? So, sustainability is wrongly understood by people. For sustainability, it has to be multidimensional, not just planet. Because, and if you look at the SDGs, it's basically a compromise between different schools of thoughts of development. So there is a development history coming before 2015, and the main movements were the environmental movement, but we also had the feminist movement, we also had the education movement, the agriculture revolution, many things. And then you also have the economics model of capitalism, right? Which is the dominant one. So if you analyze, it's basically a compromise between these different schools of thoughts. All of them have been brought under a global framework, which is the SDGs. You can find all schools of thoughts of development within the SDGs.
जब हम एसडीजीज़ की बात करते हैं, सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात करते हैं, देन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ एसडीजीज़, हम जहाँ सबको पता है कि पाकिस्तान इज़ एन एग्रीकल्चर कंट्री और मोस्टली हम लोग डिपेंड करते हैं अपने एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्ट्स के ऊपर। तो आपको क्या लगता है कि क्या पाकिस्तान एक राइट डायरेक्शन में जा रहा है टुवर्ड्स अ सस्टेनेबल एग्रीकल्चर कंट्री, या फिर हम जो है ना उसमें भी पीछे है बाकी दुनिया से, और उसमें भी आपको लगता है कि बहुत ज़्यादा बैरियर्स आ रहे हैं?
You're right, Pakistan is still an agriculture country. If we count the number of people in industries, so we are still a majority agriculture employed people. But if it comes to the GDP output, it's not that much. Rather, it's for subsistence. Mainly, we are growing food crops. The cash crops that were for export, such as tobacco or cotton, even they are going down. So I would not say that we are doing good on sustainable agriculture as a whole, but I would also like to highlight there are many innovative things happening. Our youth is doing good. Various stakeholders are trying to go towards sustainable agriculture. Various platforms are coming to Pakistan. So one of the related platform would be the World Food Forum, WFF, which happens physically every year in Italy, but then there are various national chapters of the WFF. And we in Pakistan currently don't have a WFF chapter, So I would like to announce through your podcast that yes, we are actually working on the WFF Pakistan chapter and it's going to come soon. Many people, stakeholders in the food space then can join that organization and be linked to WFF, FAO. It can actually steer us towards more sustainable agriculture. But the current status, I'm not so happy.
Mr. Shercha, you travel a lot. You travel around the globe and attend different COP events. What was the most eye-opening event for you while attending any COP event?
Interesting. So, one of the most eye-opening events I would say was last year in COP29 Azerbaijan. It was strange for everyone who was there. Maybe someone who's listening and was there can also reflect on this, but we actually had 1 day of extension for COP, which is very rare. But the reason was that negotiations were happening and an agreement wasn't being reached. So the next extended day now, it starts since the morning, it goes till midnight, then still to and fro, huddles here, huddles there, negotiations, informal happening, people clueless, the whole world is watching. Now imagine it's 12 at night now, and we are still since the morning it's happening. The session is being adjourned, then brought back. But finally, it closed next morning, 5 or 6 a.m. So imagine the whole day extended and then a second mini day extended. And in that space, that what I realized was no matter how many negotiations happen pre-COP, in the actual COP, even the last formats are crucial for some decision. And the decision which was stuck, basically, I'll just put a highlight to it, was the climate finance and how much should it be. So in the first draft, it was $250 billion, but the global south was trying to push for 1.3 trillion. 250 billion, 1.3 trillion. And the final text that was adopted was 300 billion. So all that night of negotiation pushed 50 billion up. From 250 billion, now it's 300 billion. But I also remember the Brazilian negotiator adding this sentence that it shouldn't be stopped at 300 billion. It should be up to 1.3 trillion. So they left some room for climate finance, and they knew that the next COP is happening in Brazil and this thing would again come to them. So why not push as much as you can in Baku? So this was a one strange event that I briefly described.
अच्छा, आप कॉप के इवेंट पे जाते हैं तो ऑब्वियसली उसमें दुनिया भर के लोग आए होते हैं। तो कितना अच्छा वहाँ पे फ़ील होता है कि जब आप देखते हैं कि अच्छा मेरे मुल्क पाकिस्तान से भी इतने सारे लोग यहाँ पे आके पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, कॉप का इवेंट जो है ना वो अटेंड कर रहे हैं। और क्या जब आप कॉप के इवेंट पे जाते हैं तो बस वहीं पूरा दिन आप जो है ना नेगोशिएशन करते रहते हैं और आपने जो है ना क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस की बात करते हैं या फिर उसमें कुछ घूमने-फिरने का भी आपको मौका मिलता है?
Interesting. Yeah. So the first part of your question, it feels really good when you see your own countrymen in a foreign space, especially in COPs, because we need numbers over there. Some countries bring in a lot of delegates. And if I'll be honest, our government doesn't try much to bring in non-government stakeholders in COPs. It's everyone doing something for themselves and trying to reach COP. But so in last year COP29 we had a sizable number of Pakistanis. We were looking good. Even our pavilion was really in the front, and India didn't have a pavilion, so that was one thing. But yes, having many people in COPs. So when I went to COP 16 in Saudi Arabia, there were very less Pakistanis, so it didn't feel good. So one, we need those numbers. In the latest climate conference that happened in SB 62 Germany just last week, there were very less Pakistanis, and I saw some comments posts from some of my friends who went there. that we need to bring in more people for COP30. So yes, that is one part. The second part of your question was that whether we are having negotiations the whole day and so on. So in COPs, one, you have the blue zone and the green zone. So in the blue zone, there are negotiations, but there are also the country pavilions. There small events happen, talks, presentations. So you can go and participate in those events, listen to someone, or maybe get an opportunity to speak. So it's a very happening place, COP. But now come to off venue. So whenever there is a COP in any city, whether it was last year's COP in Dubai, COP 28, or whether it was Baku, the whole city is in COP basically. Everyone knows about COP, and the government pushes everyone. There's branding in the whole city. They facilitate you. I would especially highlight that the volunteer teams of COP29 from the Azerbaijani locals, they were very cooperative. They were everywhere in the city. Even on the road, if you needed help and you saw their uniform and asked them, they would help you through. And yes, we do have our networking sessions. We so there was this one place called the Goals House, and it's set every before alongside every call. So it's a separate kind of space they make, and then they bring in really good speakers, informal events, and all. So these things also happen on the sideline of COPs. And yes, you can do your tour, you can do sightseeing, maybe on a weekend. So there is also a chutti in COP. You can go visit somewhere. And the best part, so we work in the climate space. We know many people online, but all of them converge in COPs. So we say, for example, people from Yango that I know and so on. So we usually have a very good gathering and, have a fun time as well as the stressful negotiations and so on.
तो ये तो काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है किसी भी कॉप के इवेंट को अटेंड करना। अब आपने वो तो बता दी कि वहाँ पे आप क्या कुछ कर सकते हैं एन्जॉयमेंट के लिए भी और ऑन अ सीरियस नोट भी। तो फिर हमारे व्यूअर्स को ये भी बताइए कि अगर कोई कॉप का इवेंट अटेंड करना चाहते हैं तो उसके लिए उसको करना क्या होगा? कैसे कोई प्रोसेस होता है अप्लाई करने का या आप किसी ऑर्गनाइज़ेशन के थ्रू आप करते कैसे आप करते? तो थोड़ा-सा ना ये भी बता दें हमारे
This is an interesting question, and I would say if you even search this on Google, you will not get an answer for it. It's very difficult, and I've rarely seen any capacity building session for this. Although we are having an event on 10th July in Qaid-e-Azam University, it's called Rio Conference. Our viewers, if they're listening, they can also apply and try to join in. But I just summarize it because it's a long story how to go to COPs. Number one, you should have a good profile working in the climate space, whether at the grassroots level, whether in policy, something to show
Yes.
in the climate space. Next, you have three types of badges or accreditations. One is the party badge that your government is going to give. So for that, you have to have good relations with the government. But then there is the party overflow. Party overflow. So these are kind of the associates of the party badge holders. Usually, if the government is sending allied staff or someone from the youth space or some stakeholders, so they would be given party overflow badge, and this again comes from the government. Now how do they give this? No one knows this. So for that you have to approach the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment in Pakistan. The other method, which is the easier one, is the observer status. So observer organizations are there on the UNFCCC website. They have an official status of being an observer. They are given some badges, accreditation, and then they give to either their own employees or nominate someone. So if they want to give it to you or me, that is how majority of us youth go to COPs, through an observer organization's badge.
My next question was that
Yeah.
what's the procedure of getting a badge to attend the COP event?
So you have to reach out to those observer organizations. How can you find their contacts? On the UNFCCC website, the list of organization and also their focal points with their emails. And how to approach them, definitely you're going to talk about your work, you have to impress them, and then also tell them that you want to be part of their delegation. But that's the badge part. The next part is more difficult, funding. So for that, you have to reach out to many more organizations. Usually my students ask me, sir, who to reach out to? The answer is someone who can trust you, someone whom you have worked with or knows you through your work. And there's no limit to how many organizations you can approach. Keep trying. But the funding part is difficult. And in this year, SCOB is in Brazil and it's very expensive. Just the air ticket is so expensive to Brazil. So yes, badge plus funding. This is how one can go to COP. It's difficult, but nothing can be achieved without trying.
जब हम कॉप इवेंट्स की बात करते हैं तो ऑब्वियसली उन लोगों को इनवाइट किया जाता है या उनको वो बैज मिलता है जो कि एनवायरनमेंट क्लाइमेट चेंज एक्शन के ऊपर काम कर रहे होते हैं और आप भी एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन चला रहे हैं स्किल स्टार के नाम से। तो क्या लगता है आपको कि जो हमारी यूथ है या जो सस्टेनेबल लीडर्स की हम बात करते हैं उनमें कौन सी क्वालिटीज़ होनी चाहिए ताकि वो आगे जो ना पॉलिसी मेकर्स अगर बनते हैं या फिर कॉप के इवेंट्स में जाते हैं तो उनके पास कौन-कौन सी वो क्वालिटीज़ होनी चाहिए?
I would say yes, leadership qualities, but within leadership, I would say passion first. If you have the passion, you will definitely reach there. But then usually people have passion, but they lack one more important thing, which is perseverance. मतलब टिक के रहना until till the end. So passion I usually see in our youth, but then they don't persevere. They think it's a short-term gain, and if they didn't get it, they just leave it. It's not a short-term gain, it's a long gain. You have to be passionate about sustainability, climate to really excel in this field and stick to it. Perseverance. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, maybe you'll be in the places that, for example, I go to nowadays, and it came through perseverance.
Okay, so moving towards our last segment and that is रैपिड फायर राउंड। तो बेसिकली उसमें मैंने आपसे कुछ क्वेश्चंस पूछने हैं और आपने रैपिड फायर जो है ना 1 लाइन या 1 वर्ड में उसका आंसर आपने देना है। फेवरेट एसडीजी?
It's 17, but yes, if you ask me apart from 17, it would be STG4 quality education.
1 word to describe COP29?
Eye opening.
A book or film that changed the way you view the world?
100 battles that changed history.
Most memorable country you traveled?
The Maldives.
Coffee or chai during a brainstorming session?
I'm a chai guy.
A sustainability leader you look up to?
Someone I would close down would be Sir David Attenborough because he is very old and he's still contributing to this cause.
Before signing off, my last question would be your message for the youth of Pakistan. Before signing off, your message for the youth of Pakistan.
So the youth of Pakistan are very close to my heart and I've been working for them. You can always consider me your ally and count on my support. The message for you would be of optimism. You can change the world, not just Pakistan. Keep trying, keep doing the good things, whether on a small scale. There is always scalability involved in doing social good. I mean, if you start from low, you're going to grow one day. Just from a simple attending one workshop, you would be facilitating a workshop. So, this is a long game. Don't think about short termism. Sustainability, climate space, it takes time first to get that knowledge and wisdom and then share it with others. Whatever you are learning, always share it with others because when you share it with others, it refines your own knowledge and avail the opportunities that we or other allies of youth are providing for you. I usually, what upsets me the most is one, we rarely get opportunities. But when we do, or you just take them for granted, such as alcohols, such as some climate event. So, don't take them for granted. These physical or even online capacity building sessions, they can take you to places you've never seen before.
Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Shersha, and for your valuable insights. So that's all from our side. Thank you so much and keep watching AIGO Navigators podcast series. Thank you.